23 minutes before the wedding. She is standing in a hallway in a white dress, veil on, flowers in her hand, heart full of everything she has spent 3 years building toward this exact moment. And then she hears his voice through a cracked door, laughing. Not nervous laughter. Not the kind of laugh a man gives when his groomsmen are teasing him about being scared. This was relaxed, comfortable, the laugh of a man who thinks he has already won. She hears him say her name. She hears him say she is the most naive woman he has ever met. She hears him say he has never loved her, not even close, that she was a strategy, a 2-year-long strategy, that marrying her today was just the next step in a plan he had been running since the night they met at a charity event, and he decided she was worth targeting. She also finds out, right there in that hallway, that there is another woman, and that woman is pregnant with his child. She has 23 minutes until she is supposed to walk down that aisle. She does not scream. She does not run. She does not call her mother or call the whole thing off, or do any of the things you and I would probably do if the floor dropped out from under us. She goes to the bathroom, fixes her makeup, practices her smile in the mirror, and then she walks down that aisle and marries him. What happens next is the reason this story exists. Let me tell you who Vanessa Carter was before any of this. 28 years old, born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. The only daughter of Raymond Carter, a man who had spent 30 years turning a single hardware distribution company into one of the most respected business conglomerates in the southeastern United States. The Carter Group owned real estate across 4 states, commercial logistics, a chain of boutique hotels, agricultural supply partnerships across the Deep South. If something moved money through that region and did it quietly, there was a good chance the Carter name was somewhere in the structure. And Vanessa had grown up inside all of it. People made assumptions about her immediately. They saw the address she grew up in, the school she attended, the car she drove at 22, and they drew their conclusions fast. Spoiled, soft, the kind of woman who has never had to earn a single thing. Those people were wrong. Vanessa had a finance degree from Duke and a sharp legal mind she had spent years sharpening in boardrooms beside her father since she was 17 years old. She spoke 3 languages. She had restructured 2 of the Carter Group's underperforming divisions by the time she was 25, and nobody had asked her to. She had simply seen the problem and fixed it. But none of that ever seemed to be the first thing anyone noticed. What they noticed was that she was beautiful and rich. That was the full story in most people's minds. The rest was detail. The part they missed, the part that mattered most, was that Vanessa had spent most of her adult life quietly exhausted by a question she could never stop asking. Does he actually see me? Or does he see my father's name? She had been burned before. Men who were charming at first and then slowly started revealing what they actually wanted. Introductions, business favors, a loan that was just temporary. She had learned to read the signs early, and she had become very good at walking away before things went too far. She had walls, tall ones, built carefully over years of disappointment. And then she met Marcus Webb. It was at a charity gala in Atlanta, an annual fundraiser for children in underfunded school districts across Georgia. Medical care, school supplies, after-school programs. Vanessa attended every year. Not for the social scene, because she cared about the work. She was sitting toward the back, away from the loudest part of the room, when she noticed a man bidding in the live auction. He was not the most noticeable person in the room. No loud energy. No look-at-me suit. He was well-dressed in a quiet way. The kind of man who carried himself like he did not need a room to turn and look at him. He was bidding on a handcrafted quilt made by an elderly woman from a community arts collective in rural Alabama. Beautiful piece. Deep blues and burnt oranges. The auction kept climbing because another man, clearly just there to win, kept raising the number. Marcus did not flinch. $4,000, $6,000, $9,000. Marcus won it at just over $9,000. And then, Vanessa watched this with her own eyes. He walked the quilt directly to the event coordinator and said, "Please keep this. Put it in one of the classrooms or the common room at whichever school needs it most. I bought it so the kids could have something beautiful. I don't need it at my house." Something moved in Vanessa's chest that she had not felt in a very long time. She walked over, They started talking. 2.5 hours later, the venue was nearly empty and neither of them had noticed. Marcus told her he ran a mid-sized financial consulting firm, that he had grown up in a working-class neighborhood in Birmingham, Alabama. His father had driven trucks for 30 years. His mother had worked as a school administrator. Everything Marcus had, he had built himself, slowly, deliberately, through years of work that he described without any drama or exaggeration. "I don't believe in shortcuts," he said. "I've watched what they do to people, what you end up owing when you take them." Vanessa had heard versions of that speech before. Men trying to present themselves as self-made to impress a woman they knew came from money. But Marcus wasn't performing. He was just talking, like a man who genuinely didn't need her to be impressed. That was what got her. They started seeing each other the following week. For the next 2 years, Marcus was everything she had stopped believing in. Every Friday without fail. Fresh flowers. Not just any flowers. He had listened early in their relationship when she mentioned offhandedly that she loved peonies because her grandmother had grown them in her backyard. He never switched to something generic. He paid attention, and he kept paying attention. He never asked her for money. When they went to dinner, he paid his share without discussion. When Vanessa offered to connect him with some of her father's business associates, people who could open serious doors for his firm, he was hesitant. He eventually agreed, only after she made a genuine argument that his work deserved the platform. Vanessa's father, Raymond Carter, a man who had spent decades reading people and protecting what he had built, watched Marcus carefully for the first several months of their relationship. He looked for the angles, looked for the tells. He found none. "I think he's real," Raymond told his daughter quietly one evening. "I'm still watching, but I think he might actually be real." From Raymond Carter, that was essentially a blessing. 18 months in, Marcus's firm had grown significantly. New clients, higher profile contracts. Vanessa had made quiet introductions in the right places, and his reputation had done the rest. "You've changed everything for me," he told her one evening, walking along the Riverwalk in downtown Atlanta. "Before I met you, I was surviving. Now, I'm actually building something." "We're building something," she said. She meant it completely. 6 months after that, Marcus took her to the Georgia coast at sunset. He got down on one knee on the sand. He pulled out a ring, not enormous, not flashy. She loved it exactly because it wasn't. He had saved for it himself. "Vanessa," he said, his voice unsteady in a way she had never heard from him. "You are the most extraordinary person I have ever known. Will you marry me?" She said yes before he even finished the sentence. The wedding was planned for 6 months after the engagement. 300 guests. The Carter family estate in Buckhead transformed into something extraordinary. White and gold everywhere. Flowers that Vanessa had chosen herself. A live string quartet. Photographers flown in from New York. Every detail had been chosen by a woman who believed in every single one of them. The morning of the wedding was the kind of morning that only exists right before something breaks. Vanessa was upstairs in her childhood bedroom getting ready. Her mother was helping with her veil. A stylist was putting the final touches on her hair. The sounds of arriving guests drifted up from the garden below. 23 minutes until the ceremony. Vanessa decided to go downstairs. She wanted one last look at everything before it began. She wanted to breathe in the moment that was about to become the rest of her life. She walked down the main staircase, holding up the front of her gown. As she turned down the hall toward the garden entrance, she passed her father's private study. The door was slightly open. She could hear voices inside, men laughing. One of those voices was Marcus. She was about to knock, and then she heard something that stopped every single thing inside her. "Man, you're really going through with it." A voice she vaguely recognized, one of Marcus's groomsmen. "I still can't believe it." Marcus laughed, easy, relaxed. "Why wouldn't I? Do you have any idea what the Carter family is worth? I'm about to go from running a mid-sized firm to having access to generational money. No more grinding, no more chasing clients, done." The hallway tilted. Vanessa pressed her back against the wall. "But what about Deja?" another voice said. "She's pregnant, Marcus. What are you going to do about Deja?" The world stopped. Deja. Pregnant. Marcus answered without a single pause. "Deja knows the plan. She'll stay quiet until I get settled. Once I get access to real money, I'll take care of her properly. She understands how this works." "You're something else," one of the men said, half laughing. "I'm smart," Marcus said. and now his voice had a cold edge to it that Vanessa had never once heard in 2 years of knowing him. Vanessa is genuinely kind, sweet girl, but she is the most trusting person I have ever met in my life. She believes everything I tell her. I spent 2 years bringing her flowers and remembering her little details and listening to her talk, and she bought every single second of it. Laughter from the room. The plan is simple, Marcus continued. Stay married 2, maybe 3 years. Use her connections to grow the firm into something serious. Get her to sign over financial authority, which will be easy because she trusts me completely. Then I file for divorce, take what I can in the settlement, and I'm set. I'll already know every powerful person worth knowing. I'll be untouchable. What if she fights back? Marcus snorted. Vanessa, fight back? She's never had to fight for anything in her life. She grew up with everything. Women like her. When it gets hard, they protect their image. They'll take a quiet exit before they let a scandal go public. She won't even see it coming. Vanessa's back was flat against the wall. Her hands were at her sides. Every Friday flower, every remembered detail, every whispered, I love you. 2 full years. Every single day of it, a performance, a long con, executed by a man who had looked her in the eyes every day and felt nothing. She heard footsteps at the far end of the hallway. Her father. Raymond Carter was walking toward her in his suit, ready to walk his daughter down the aisle. When he saw her face, the color gone from it, her eyes wide and glassy, he stopped immediately. Vanessa. His voice dropped to almost nothing. What happened? She couldn't find words. She pointed to the door. Raymond's eyes moved to the cracked study door. He stepped close. He listened. Vanessa watched her father's face as he heard the same words she had just heard. She watched his jaw tighten. She watched his hands go very still. Raymond Carter had built everything he had by being unshakable. He had survived betrayal before, by partners. Seized by competitors, by people he had trusted with real stakes. He recognized exactly what he was hearing. He quietly took Vanessa by the arm and guided her down the hall to an empty room. He closed the door. How much did you hear? He asked. All of it. Her voice was barely there. Dad, there's a woman. She's pregnant. He's been planning this the entire time. All of it. Raymond said nothing for a moment. He looked at his daughter. The white dress, the carefully arranged hair, the tears that were right at the edge but hadn't broken yet. Then he said, we have 2 choices, and we have about 15 minutes. I need to stop here for a second. Because most people, hearing this, have already decided what they would do. They're picturing the confrontation, the ruined ceremony. The moment she walks into that study and blows everything up in front of everyone, and nobody would blame her for that. But here is what that decision actually means. He walks away, clean, free, with 0 consequences. He goes back to Deja, tells her it didn't work out, finds his next target, and runs the exact same play again on someone else. A blown-up wedding is a story he gets to laugh about later. Raymond laid out both options plainly. Option 1, cancel the ceremony, send the guests home, deal with the embarrassment and the questions, safe, dignified, and completely, totally useless as far as consequences go. Option 2, walk down that aisle knowing exactly what she knows. Let Marcus believe he is winning, and build from the inside a case that ends him. Vanessa stared at her father. You want me to marry him. I want you to choose, he said carefully. But if you do this, you have to be strong enough to live it for months. You'll have to let him think you trust him. You'll have to act like a happy wife while he commits crimes, because we need him to actually commit them, not just talk about them. He paused. Can you do that? Vanessa heard Marcus's voice again in her head. She's never had to fight for anything in her life. Something settled inside her, quiet and permanent. I'll marry him, she said, and then I'll make sure he never recovers from it. Raymond pulled out his phone. I was recording through the door, he said. Every word he said. He showed her. This is the beginning. But we need him to actually move. We'll build accounts that look exactly like our money. Show real balances, or real access, but are completely controlled by our legal team. Every transaction he attempts gets logged and handed to investigators. He'll think he's stealing millions. He'll actually be building his own criminal case. Vanessa felt something cold, and clarifying move through her chest. "How long do I have to fix my face?" she asked. Raymond almost smiled. 10 minutes. She went to the bathroom mirror, washed away everything that had smeared, reapplied every layer, practiced the expression Marcus expected to see. When she walked back out, she looked like the happiest bride in the room. The string quartet was playing. 300 guests rose from their seats as Vanessa appeared at the top of the garden path on her father's arm. Everything she had chosen was exactly as she had imagined it. The flowers, the gold chairs, the white rose petals across the aisle, the late afternoon Georgia light falling over all of it like something from a painting. She walked through it like a woman who knew exactly what every single second of it was worth. At the end of the path stood Marcus Webb. He was watching her walk toward him with an expression she had always read as love. She could see it now for what it actually was. Triumph. He was almost there. When she reached him, Raymond placed her hand in Marcus's and looked at him directly. "Take care of my daughter." "I will, sir," Marcus said. "I'll treasure her always." Liar. The officiant spoke about commitment and honesty and choosing someone every single day. Every word landed differently than it should have. "Do you, Marcus Webb? Do you take Vanessa Carter to be your wife?" "I do." He looked straight into her eyes. He was convincing. She had to give him that. "Do you, Vanessa Carter, take Marcus Webb to be your husband?" One breath. One last open door. She thought about Deja, about an innocent baby who deserved better than this man, about every other woman Marcus would eventually do this to if she let him walk away, clean today. "I do." The guests erupted. Music swelled. Petals flew through the Georgia air. Marcus kissed her. She let him. She felt nothing except the steady, quiet weight of a plan already in motion. The trap was set. Now she just had to let him walk into it. The honeymoon was 2 weeks in Turks and Caicos. Beautiful. Expensive. And Marcus, charming, attentive, completely calculated, played his role without a single crack. So did Vanessa. On the 4th night, Marcus said he had a headache and told her to go to the resort restaurant without him. "Get some air," he said. "Enjoy the view." Vanessa went downstairs. She did not eat. She sat in the corner of the lobby with earphones in, listening through a small device Raymond's security team had placed in the room before they arrived. She heard Marcus pick up his phone. She heard him dial. "It's me. She's gone." A pause. "I know. I miss you too. How are you feeling? How's the baby?" Vanessa's hands tightened around her phone. She was recording every word. "It's going perfectly," Marcus continued. "Her father is already talking about bringing me into the business after we get back. Power of attorney is coming. I can feel it. Raymond trusts me. Vanessa trusts me completely. She'll sign whatever I put in front of her." A laugh. That same relaxed, easy laugh. 6 months, Deja. 6 months, and we start moving money. Small amounts first, then bigger. By the time anyone realizes what's happening, we'll be somewhere they can't reach us. You and me and our baby. 15 minutes later, Vanessa walked back upstairs. She made noise at the door before she entered. "Back already?" Marcus said from the bed, looking completely innocent. "Wasn't the same without you," she said, smiling. He pulled her close. She stayed in his arms, and she felt nothing but the quiet focus of someone who has already seen the last move on the board. When they returned to Atlanta, Raymond began his part. In a private meeting at his office, he told Marcus he had been impressed with how he carried himself, so that he wanted Marcus more involved in the Carter Group, that Vanessa was stretched thin with her philanthropic work, and it would help to have someone she trusted handling some of the financial administration. "Power of attorney over several of the accounts," Raymond said, sliding papers across the desk. "Sign here, and here, and here." Marcus signed before Raymond had finished the sentence. He barely looked at the documents. What he did not know was that those accounts, the ones showing balances of $2 million, $8 million, $15 million, were entirely fabricated, controlled completely by the Carter family's legal team. Every transaction, every login, every attempted transfer would be monitored in real time and documented as evidence. He was signing himself into a trap that looked exactly like everything he had ever wanted. That night, Vanessa lay still in the dark and listened through the cracked bathroom door as Marcus whispered into his phone. "I have access, Deja. I have real access. We're going to be fine. We're going to be more than fine. Vanessa pulled the blanket closer around herself. Let him celebrate. The months that followed were the hardest of her life. She watched Marcus grow confident, comfortable. He started coming into the Carter Group offices regularly. He moved money in small amounts at first, fake invoices, services that didn't exist, vendors that were shell addresses, then larger amounts. Then attempted wire transfers to offshore accounts he had opened quietly in the weeks before their wedding. Every move documented. Every transfer tracked. Every fake invoice preserved as evidence. A federal investigator Raymond had quietly briefed months earlier described the growing case file as unusually clean. One afternoon, Vanessa came home early from a board meeting and heard a woman's voice inside their apartment. She stopped outside the door. "You shouldn't have come here," Marcus was saying, his voice tight. "Deja, I told you, I'm 8 months pregnant," the woman said. "I've been alone this whole time while you're playing house with her. I'm done hiding." "Just a little longer," Marcus said. "We are so close." "Do you actually love me?" Deja asked. "Or am I just part of your plan too?" A pause. "You're the one I actually want," Marcus said, quieter now. "Vanessa is just a means to an end. You know that." Vanessa stood outside that door with her phone recording every word. Then she turned around, walked back to the elevator, drove to a hotel, and cried for the first time since the morning of the wedding. She cried for the 3 years she had given, for the future she had genuinely believed in, for the woman she used to be who had stood on that beach and said yes with her whole heart. She cried until she had nothing left. Then she washed her face, looked at herself in the mirror, and said the only thing that mattered. A few more months. 3 months into the marriage, Marcus had attempted to transfer what he believed was just over $4 million into accounts he controlled. The money had gone nowhere. The evidence had gone everywhere. Federal investigators had a complete picture: fraud, forgery, embezzlement, wire fraud, money laundering, conspiracy. 90 days of documented criminal activity with Marcus's fingerprints on every single piece of it. The Carter family lawyers told Raymond they could move whenever he was ready. "Let him ask for the divorce first," Vanessa said. Raymond looked at her. "Why?" "Because I want him to feel exactly what I felt," she said. "Blindsided. I want him to believe he has won completely before he finds out he has lost everything." 3 weeks later, Marcus came home and asked her to sit down. He looked sad. Practiced sad. "Vanessa," he said, "I don't know how to say this except straight. I think we made a mistake. I care about you. I do. But I don't think I'm in love with you. I think we should end this." Vanessa looked at him. She let her expression fall just slightly. "There's someone else?" "No," he said, offended. "Such a performance. This is just about us." She stood up, said she needed time to think, walked to the bedroom, closed the door, and texted her father 4 words. He asked for it. Raymond's reply came back in seconds. "Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. That evening, federal agents knocked on Deja's apartment door on the west side of Atlanta. Deja Washington, 8 months pregnant, completely unprepared, opened the door and found 2 agents showing badges. "Deja Washington, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud and money laundering." Deja's face went white. "What? No, there has to be a mistake. Marcus said it was his money. He said it was completely legal." One of the agents wrote that down. Deja kept talking without realizing she was confessing. Across the city, Marcus's phone rang. A neighbor of Deja's panicked. "They arrested her, Marcus. Federal agents. They put her in handcuffs." Marcus paced the apartment for the rest of the night. He did not sleep. At 9 a.m., he walked into a private bank in Midtown Atlanta dressed in his sharpest suit. Head up, calm face. He had decided he would move everything to a new account. Get ahead of whatever was unraveling. Start over. Somewhere clean. He gave the account number to the banker at the private desk. She typed. Her expression shifted. She excused herself. 30 seconds later, 3 people in plain clothes approached from behind him. "Marcus Webb." He turned. Federal agents, badges out. "You are under arrest for wire fraud, embezzlement, forgery, money laundering, and conspiracy." The bank went very quiet. Other customers stared. Someone raised a phone. "Wait!" Marcus's voice cracked. "Wait, there's been a mistake. I can explain this." Cold metal clicked around his wrists. They walked him out through the main entrance. Outside, a car was parked directly across the street. The window came down. Vanessa sat in the back seat looking directly at him. Their eyes met. She watched his face move through shock, confusion, disbelief, and then land on the only thing left: understanding. You knew the entire time. Vanessa held his gaze, no smile, no performance, just steady, unforgiving eyes that told him everything he needed to know. Then the window went up. Her car drove away. Vanessa walked into the federal interrogation room with her father and two of their lawyers. Marcus sat at the metal table in his good suit, hands cuffed. When she walked in, his mouth fell open. "Vanessa." She sat down across from him, placed a folder on the table between them. "Do you remember the morning of our wedding?" she said. "Do you remember standing in my father's study with your friends, laughing about how I was too naive to understand what you were doing to me?" Silence. "I heard every word." She slid a transcript across the table. "So did my father. We recorded everything from the doorway." She opened the folder. "We also have every call you made to Deja during the honeymoon, every transfer you attempted, every fake invoice, every forged signature, every conversation about the offshore accounts." Marcus stared at the papers. "The accounts you had access to," Vanessa continued, "were never connected to our actual money. Not a single dollar. Every transaction you made was logged in real time and handed directly to federal investigators. You spent 3 months building a criminal case against yourself while you believed you were stealing from us." She leaned forward. "You said I was weak. You said I was too sheltered to fight back. You said women like me take the quiet exit." She paused. "You were wrong about every single part of that." Marcus's voice was barely a sound. "You married me to trap me." "You chose to trap yourself," Vanessa said. "I just made sure someone was watching while you did it." She stood up. "The saddest part," she said, and her voice was quiet now, genuinely quiet, not performed, "is that if you had been real, I would have given you everything. Not because you asked for it, because that is who I am. I would have shared everything I had with someone who actually loved me." She picked up her folder. "But you didn't want a partner. You wanted a victim, and that was your only real mistake." She walked out. Behind her, she heard him begin to cry. She did not look back. The trial lasted 4 weeks. Every piece of evidence the Carter legal team and federal investigators had built was presented methodically before the court. The recordings, the wire transfer attempts, the forged documents, the offshore account applications, the phone calls from the honeymoon suite. Deja Washington testified. She had cooperated fully with prosecutors in exchange for reduced charges. She told the court she had known about the marriage, not the full depth of the scheme, but enough. She had believed Marcus when he said he would leave Vanessa quickly and cleanly. She had wanted to believe it. She had given birth to a baby boy 6 weeks before the trial began. He was with her mother during the proceedings. The federal judge, a woman who had been on the bench for over 2 decades and had very little patience for calculated cruelty dressed up as cleverness, listened to all of it without expression. Marcus's defense attorney argued entrapment, that the Carter family had constructed an irresistible opportunity. The prosecutor took 4 minutes to dismantle it. Entrapment requires that law enforcement induced an otherwise law-abiding person to commit a crime. Mr. Webb conceived, planned, and began executing this scheme before the wedding ever took place, before any accounts were established. Before any access was granted. The Carter family did not create his intentions. They simply gave those intentions a place to act. The jury deliberated for 5 hours. Guilty on all counts. At sentencing, the judge looked at Marcus Webb for a long moment before she spoke. "You did not commit these crimes out of desperation. You were not cornered. You had a successful business. You had a future being offered to you freely by people who believed in you." She paused. "You committed these crimes because you believed you were smarter than the people who trusted you. You believed the woman you were deceiving was too comfortable to stop you. You were wrong on both counts." She set down her papers. 14 years in federal prison. Eligible for parole review after 9 years. All contingent on demonstrated rehabilitation. Marcus closed his eyes. As the guards moved toward him, he looked one last time across the courtroom at Vanessa. "I'm sorry," he said. The words were quiet, maybe for the first time in everything between them. Genuine. Vanessa looked at him for a moment. "Use the time," she said. "Not for me. For your son. That little boy deserves a father who knows how to love something other than a plan." The guards led Marcus out of the courtroom. Vanessa sat still as the room emptied around her. Her father sat beside her, saying nothing. She had expected to feel something like victory. What she felt instead was tired. And underneath the tired, in a place she had not fully reached yet, something that might, with enough time, become peace. People will call this a revenge story. It isn't. Revenge would have been the hallway, the screaming, the ruined ceremony that everyone talked about for years for all the wrong reasons. What Vanessa did was not revenge. It was justice. Patient, deliberate, documented justice. And it cost her something real. Months of living inside a lie that someone else built around her. Months of performing love for a man she now knew had never felt it. Months of being strong in a way that nobody around her even knew she was being. Let nobody tell you that came easy. But here is the thing about this story that I keep coming back to. Marcus looked at Vanessa and saw someone who had never had to fight. He thought growing up with money meant she had no real strength. He thought comfort meant softness. He thought trust meant weakness. And in doing that, in underestimating her so completely and so confidently, he handed her the one thing he never intended to give her: a reason. The strongest version of a person sometimes only shows up when someone makes the mistake of telling them that version does not exist. Vanessa Carter did not just win a court case. She found out who she was when the worst possible thing happened at the worst possible time, and she made the hardest possible choice instead of the easiest one. That is the part of this story that is worth carrying with you. If there was a moment in this story where something shifted for you, drop it in the comments. I want to know which part hit. And if you know someone who needs to be reminded that being underestimated is not the end of their story, send this to them. See you in the next one.